Well, it's loading. All right. Welcome to 6G Agenda. We are live a little bit early today. I'm going to let everybody kind of creep on in. I got my man Ben from EndoftheWorldNews back. We're going to be talking about the Second Crusade today. I'm seeing a lot of rhetoric around Crusade 2.0 coming from Alex Jones. He did a crazy interview with Sneeko a week or so ago, and I was like, dude, we should talk about this because it's just hilarious. He back to back. I think the next day he did one with Fuentes, and he started calling for Crusade. And it is the most animated interview. And then he also goes into this weird Holy War Crusade thing. We've talked about the Holy War t-shirts all the way back like a year ago. So this is a long time coming. This is something we've talked about many times. So yeah, welcome on, Ben. I'm excited to talk about this with you. How you doing today?
Hey, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to come on and talk about these crazy things with you. And I'm with you. When I was watching this stuff and watching him call for a crusade, and of course, Sneeko was playing the villain or the heel in this, fight that was going on in the public domain. And the only thing I thought about, and I was reading the comments, and there was the Muslims that were sticking up for Sneeko. There were the Christians that were calling for a crusade, like Alex Jones was in the comments. And the entire time I was thinking, behind every revolution, there is always a hidden hand. Yes. Go back to the French Revolution, and all these people are getting played. It's a trap. So yeah, it's wild to watch when you see the world through this lens or this view.
Yeah, every one of them are. And that's interesting you just brought that up, because I think about the Albert Pike letter when I think about what's going on right now. And I think it's ironic that somebody like Alex Jones could be talking about things like this and not realize the irony of what he's saying, because he is feeding right into a large conspiracy that he has to know about. And that's Albert Pike's letter about the 3 world wars. And so I see it kind of unfolding, this third aspect of the Third World War. Forgery or not, it seems to always end up being legitimate whenever history plays out, right?
Well, that begs the question. Alex Jones should know this. So is he an idiot, or does he have an agenda? And I would say we'd have to look at his total body of work to see what he's actually done, to see his intentions. And here was a man who was the gold standard in conspiracy, right? And we know how controlled ops works. There's a certain number of people that will see through the mainstream narrative, if you will. And then they put in their controlled opposition. So he was speaking truth. And there were some questions about his Zionist loyalties and stuff like that. Is he Bill Hicks? But he was still considered the gold standard of truth. And then in 2023, he posts this video that's actually questioning if Trump is going to be the Antichrist, or if Elon Musk is building out the Antichrist system. And then fast forward a year, he becomes a complete shill, or what I would say, to the point here, he's a propagandist for the Trump administration, pushing Elon Musk. So you got to ask yourself, what are his true intentions? And I think the guy's clearly an op, and he's pushing this one right here.
Yeah, it's a weird move to be like, look, I'm not with Israel. I'm not for what Israel's doing, but at the same time, we need a crusade, which is like, look, I get it. I know what he's saying, but how can you not also be like, look, the globalists are pushing these people here and not pointing out as like it's Islam. It's a weird thing to do with that, because you are playing on the Christians is what he's doing. And he's got a large Christian base, and clearly that's kind of what he's playing to. And he understands he could probably galvanize them behind the movement like this, while also placating to the anti-Israel camp that does watch him still. But he's doing that in a haphazard way, because his true intentions really lie within this galvanizing the Christian base behind this holy war, which ushers in this Third World War, which is what was laid out by Albert Pike, a Freemason, a long time ago. Who is involved? It's easy to find. Let me go find that, actually, because it's a laundry list of families that he's actually connected to whenever you go look. I wasn't even aware of this. So the Pikes, by blood and marriage, connect to the Kingsburys, the Coffins, the Littles, the Moody's, the Cuttings, the Noises, the Webbers, the Chapmans, the Harrises, the Pulsifers, Andrewses, Burnhams, Wheelers, Browns, Knights, Dale. So clearly a lot of old families, as it says here. And so, and this is from a historian, George Adam, who gave a history of this guy, who was a master mason of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. So when we're talking about the hidden hand, as you mentioned, that's what I think about, right?
Oh, absolutely. And, if you study history, I don't know if I believe anything. I wonder if everything at some point was some type of false flag or a hidden hand behind a movement. And we just think that it's natural. We're also, ragging on Alex Jones, as we should, because, what he's pushing to the public, I don't think is a good thing. But on the other side, you have Sneeko, which we talked about earlier, playing the heel. I mean, he is going out in the middle of the street during the World Cup. He is rooting publicly all over the internet, 24 hours a day with all Muslim countries.
Inshallah, everybody will pray, for 3 hours a day or whatever the fuck it is that they do, right? And he's saying this online, clearly promoting this. It's the false dialectic that we're pointing out. It's not really about Alex Jones. It's not about Sneeko. It's not about any of these people in particular. It's about the overall general movement that they're a part of, that whether they know it or not, they're feeding it and they're galvanizing people behind something that has been written a long time ago. And so I can't see this as like coincidence. Sorry. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I view it.
Oh, it's very performative,
yes.
Right? Like he's not in the mosque, praying, living rights life. He's all over the streets. He's dressing up like he's in the Middle East, and no other Muslims have been Muslims their whole life, or wearing that headscarf around their head and screaming into the camera, whatever, praise be to Allah, welcome to New Yorkistan, Madani's New York, the whole world will become Muslim. And I got to think that Muslims in America are sitting there and just kind of cringing because they clearly don't do this stuff. And one more thing, I think this is interesting, and we kind of talked about it before the podcast actually started, and shout out Steven from Biblical Hitman.
Shout out Steve.
The reason he converted to being a Muslim, because he was raised Catholic. He's Filipino and I think white. He's not even from the Middle East. Not that you have to be from the Middle East to be a Muslim. Yeah. But, and this coming from his own mouth, he converted to being a Muslim because of Andrew Tate. So let's not forget that he was brought into this entire red pill movement, which I think we could both agree it's some type of intelligence operation that's going on. It's like the counter to fourth wave feminism. And especially what's going on in the news with Tate, he's really being used as an instrument of change by the system. And then when you kind of look into the videos came out where his foot was missing and all these other AI videos, you're like, I guess what I'm trying to say is his conversion to Muslim, being a Muslim, was very suspect with who he was associated with. And then when he starts to make it so performative in the public, and we don't see regular Muslims doing this, why is he doing that, right? So he's clearly getting paid by somebody to do this.
Oh, that's right. And I try to look at this from like other people's eyes. You know what I mean? I'm a certain age, I'm a certain demographic, so I try not to be that. Does that make sense? So I try to like listen to things people are listening to, or try to look at it like, who's seeing this, right? Like what age group is seeing this, and what is this actually doing for that movement, right? And so when you see somebody like, for instance, Jack Neal repost a interview he did in July with Andrew Tate that describes and details all the events that led into the current situation he's in now, where he gets arrested, right? And he's pretty much posing himself as a savior for young men, posing himself as this person who's saying young men are enough and they deserve to be, whatever, right? So it sounds good. And everything he says, he puts himself as a hero. And so now when you talk about this video and it not being like legitimately real, I think, okay, so he's posing as like this, like, yeah, he's like this hero that's being slain by the system. And we gotta, so it adds to the galvanization behind this color movement that we've talked about many times on the show from different aspects. It's not just one thing, right? You've got the anti-Zionist, you've got this aspect, which it all kind of correlates together in this kind of conversation today. Now, Jack Neal's an interesting one too. We're going to be all over the place with people. He went to the University of Austin. Hold on one
What's the
second.
one connected to Palantir?
Yeah, Joe Lonsdale and Barry
Oh,
Weiss.
you can't trust him.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joe Lonsdale and Barry Weiss started a college called the University of Austin. And Joe Lonsdale is a co-founder of Palantir. Okay. Barry Weiss was appointed to be the like CBS lady or whatever as soon as who bought it? What's his name?
Ellison.
Larry Ellison, the guy who owns Oracle. That's connected with Palantir. So yes, when we're talking about this Zionist technocratic system, it's one thing, and it's moving like a spider web in different ways towards the galvanization of the young right wing and left wing groups.
Yeah, I thought they were going to try to bring the left and the right together in opposition of Israel, and I still think they're doing that. But this Second Crusade that Alex Jones is talking about, it definitely throws a monkey wrench into that, because there's going to be some, if they follow through with this, which I think they want to, and it's not just Alex Jones, it's people that work for Alex Jones. Who's that one guy with the glasses? I'm blanking on his name. Harrison Smith. He's super racial. Anytime you're pushing this racial politics, identity, and all that type of stuff, I just don't agree with this. So I got to wonder, how is this going to play out? Is there going to be some type of civil war going on in America first before it goes to the Middle East? I don't know. We'll see where it is. Or maybe this is just more divide and conquer until the time is right? Until it's time to pull the string on whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. And well, whenever you look at Alex Jones and the school he went to a liberal arts school in Austin that was being funded by IBM, Bill Gates' mom. And then guess who kept funding? And it was a liberal arts school that they were actually trying to institute like some technological whatever into. I look at this as what we see today, the influencer world, the technocratic world, like liberal arts school mixed with technology. Right? Silicon Valley coming and infiltrating a liberal arts school in Austin. And then now we have all these influencers everywhere. And then they made their own school, Austin University, that's completely separate. So when you start to look at this, you're like, oh man, Bill and Melinda Gates fund that school. Continuing the legacy of IBM and his mother, right?
Yeah, that's wild what you said about Jack McNeil, because I saw him, right? I didn't really know who he was, but I saw a couple big people on his podcast from like you had Tucker Carlson on there, you had Andrew Tate, you had Owen Wilson. I'm like, Professor who is this guy? Professor Yang. And then when you find out that he went to the Austin College, which is funded by Palantir, you're like, this guy's
founded by Palantir, pretty much.
This guy's a puppet. This guy is a puppet.
The two most Zionist I should say the most Zionist Palantir guy was is Joe Lonsdale. When he talks about Iran on Sean Ryan, he talks about Iran like we need to get in there and take, like they're an enemy, somebody that he keeps like talking about. And this is a guy who runs the drone systems and everything for Palantir along with Alex Karp. So it's like, dude, these guys, bro, why is it that all these people that happen to be talking about these things, telling us truth and helping us, happen to also be connected to all the people that are like bringing it in?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, they're trying to expose themselves, but they're going to guide the truth in a certain direction so it ends in the outcome they want. It's kind of like a limited hangout, right?
Yes.
In a little different way. But yeah, if you're connected to Palantir and you're propped up, who's that one guy? I think his name's Jesse Michaels or something like that.
Jesse Mitchell, yeah.
Mitchell, he works for Peter Thiel.
Right. He admits it.
He admits it, yeah.
Anybody who listens to him goes, well, he admits it, so it's not a big deal, and this and that. It's like, but have you looked at who Peter Thiel is? He says that democracy and freedom are not they can't coincide, and saying pretty much that we need to get rid of like Western value, like get rid of everything. So, yeah, I worry about that. And then when you look at the fact he likes Curtis Yarvin, right, who talks about virtualizing people. And then he has a company with Brian Johnson who's cloning himself and like, and he's connected to other people who are keeping like Sam Altman, who want to keep his brain in a jar so he can put it inside of a clone later. Like these people are crazy, bro. Peter Thiel's known for injecting young people's blood in his body to live longer. So these are the people, like, how are you going to act like him working with Peter Thiel isn't that big of a deal?
Oh, it's a huge deal. And somebody in the chat, I think Alquim said here. So one guy says, I don't think we're close to a civil war in the US. We're too comfy. Possibly. I'm not dying on that hill, but some guy says here in Europe, it's near World War III. And I actually agree with that, because with this huge immigration migration all throughout the world, the majority of our immigrants in the United States come from South America, and they culturally align more with American values, or I guess you could, white American values, if you will. I don't view it that way, but that's how a lot of people view it. I think that's a more cohesive match. But when you think about Europe, the majority of their immigration comes from the Middle East. And I'm not, anti this or anti that, but I would be lying if you say that these two merging of cultures are going to merge smoothly. They're not. They're, completely the opposite. So I can definitely see a crusade thing type happening throughout Europe. And I think we're already seeing that happen. I mean, you have those videos, I think, from Ireland and stuff about the immigration. You have all the laws that favor the Muslim immigrants to come in versus the people who live there. And people in Europe are really starting to get ticked off. And that's why you have guys like Tommy Robinson.
I'm not necessarily I'm not like hanging my hat on like, oh, the crusade aspect. I'm more hanging my hat on the galvanization of people towards a certain ideology, because the doxing, I believe, is really what matters. The data collecting of who believes what. Who thinks what? That's really all that matters here. So right now, I think that that's what matters. So who's listening to Alex Jones? Who's listening to Sneeko? Who believes this? Who believes that? That's what they care about more than anything. And that's why I think you see so many different things going on at once. Because when I think of this whole thing, I think about the Bolshevik Revolution. And I think about the fact that they would galvanize people behind a movement that that the people said that they were for. But then when they took power, they turn around and kill everybody. Right. And then you look at the 100 Flowers campaign with, China, same thing. They take power, but they did it a little different. They go, tell us the problems you have, right? And people start saying this, that, and the third. And he goes, well, this turned into a whole crusade against me. And he killed 100 million people, right? So like my point is they want you to dox yourself. And right now the technology is at a point where with the data collection, they know what you're thinking. They know how you feel. They want to see how they could push you a certain way. So they could see if they can get you to, coincide with the way they want you to be, right? And so that's kind of the way I look at this. Yeah. It's more about pushing people than it is about, war. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's all about data collection. They're building out, what I would call the beast system or the surveillance state or the digital third temple, where they want to know everything about us. Yeah. And a lot of this conversation is happening on X. And I didn't drink the Kool-Aid when Elon Musk bought X. I was like, wait a minute, this guy's part of the agenda. And now he's buying this app and promoting free speech, although within a week of it, with their new CEO, Linda Yaccarino, or whatever his name was, it's, freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. But when you look at who helped Elon Musk buy X, it was Larry Ellison. And Larry Ellison is huge in the surveillance state. So the majority of this conversation right now through
I'll pull that up too.
Jones, I think he invested like $1 billion with Elon Musk. You got to understand, Elon Musk is just a front man. There's a bunch of private investors that are investing with him right there. And the majority of this conversation is happening on X, which is a giant honey trap. Yeah. So they can see where the dissident is at.
Well, and and just to give people like a little bit of context here, In-Q-Tel was started after the Patriot Act, right? The Patriot Act because of 9/11, the whole thing, right? We know the story there. And when In-Q-Tel started, what was the first investment they made? $1.5 million into Palantir. Okay. And what happened after that, right? In-Q-Tel started Oracle. That's how Oracle started. Larry Ellison's company was funded by In-Q-Tel, the same venture capitalist arm that funded Palantir. So then you look at Facebook. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg, he got paid $500,000 to drop out of Facebook by Peter Thiel in 2004. And then LifeLock shuts down and he goes and files an LLC for Facebook. So this is as you extrapolate here, and Elon Musk also did something similar to what we're talking about, where he tells his employees, any discrepancies, problems, or complaints you have, we want to know, they're pretty big about that. And so I want to know the statistics of how many people get canned after that or just hate their life, right? So I'm curious about that because it seems that we are looking at the same kind of people, right?
Absolutely. And the interesting thing, you mentioned Oracle, which Larry Ellison is playing a major role within ushering this in. And he was kind of behind the scenes for a long time.
Yep.
But if you there's actually an article about this on Gizmo, and they have the documents, a PDF of them, where Oracle was a CIA project for 3 years before they rolled it out for public consumption. It was actually titled Project Oracle.
Wow. So
Right?
how is it possible that InQtel can fund, like the Patriot Act made it possible for the CIA to fund their own companies into the public space in the public sector? That's
I
unprecedented. No, it's just unprecedented.
Yeah, well, I think what they did is they kind of outsourced all the things that would be illegal for the government to do to these quasi public private cutouts, which you would call Silicon Valley. So Silicon Valley, you know, and the weird thing is like we submit to all of it. Every time we download an app, we hit the agree button, and in that long list of words that you're agreeing to, surveillance is part of it, data collection is part of it, right? Or you have the flock cameras that have the database, but the police have access to that database. So literally the CIA outsourced all the surveillance stuff that I think under the law, if they ever follow the law, they're not allowed to do, but to say, hey, our hands are clean, we're not doing it. But it's all these companies that they funded and they created, and there's a backdoor to all these companies for them.
Exactly. And when you study the world wars, dude, it's the same thing. The Industrial Revolution came in from rich, powerful families, industrialist families that came in, extract resources, became rich off the backs of labor workers. And then, you know, you had, of course, the First World War, and then that just completely destroyed, you know, and impoverished a lot of people. And then you had another world war because of that, because of the robber barons that were coming in, these industrialist families, the same people that are doing this today and transitioning us into this fourth industrial revolution, as they call it.
Yeah. You know, I remember very early on in my diving into conspiracies, there was a video that I watched, and this guy said something that held true to me. He's like, if you ever want to know why something happened, don't listen to the talking heads while it's happening. Pay attention to what happens as a result, because that was always the intended consequence. So once there's a few years and you see how, you know, I always say, if you want to know why something happens, pay attention to how people react, because that was what they wanted to happen. So yeah, it's all fake and lame. And it's why I just say, you know, reject it all and, you know, follow the truth, who I believe, you know, is Jesus Christ, our Messiah.
Yeah. And I just think that, you know, and that's my thing. Like, I don't like to call out people per se, but I do understand the Hegelian dialectic, and it's always problem, reaction, solution. Get people to react so that way we can enact our solution. And so I always am looking at people's rhetoric and going, where does this lead? Where's the evolution of this thought process go? And if it always leads towards this kind of police state or this kind of galvanization behind something that would justify police state, then I have to go, this guy's a shill. I mean, what else you want me to do, man? So it's like, I don't know. It's logic. So let's play a little Larry Ellison. This all feeds into the Albert Pike letter that we're going to pull up in a minute, which talks about the Zionists. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's play a little Larry Ellison.
Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly
reporting
and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. All right, I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras. It's AI that's looking at the camera. No, you can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm is going to go off. It's going to be, and we're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised at all times.
Supervision. The way he enunciated that was interesting. It is a panopticon is what it is. And I don't think that it's going to be Minority Report. We'll catch you before you do it. It has nothing to do with this aspect of like, oh, when something happens, then we'll get you, you know?
Well, think about this, what he just said. And remember, they create the problem. They throw fire on the gasoline, to the reaction. And then their solution is always more federal overreach with the surveillance. And right? What led to police officers wearing those cameras on their chests? Well, remember there was like a year or two period where it showed all those white officers going after those black people, and there was all these big, to-dos about it and stuff like that. And there's really a public perception out there that these policemen were, and I'm not saying they are or they're not, they're out of control. They're doing all this horrible stuff. So what do we need to do? We need to put cameras on them, and people are like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And that's just ushering in more of the surveillance state. So he's telling you what you want to hear. We'll keep these police, under control. They're not going to be doing bad stuff, but guess what they're also doing? They're surveilling everything that we do too. And ultimately, that's what they want for their data harvesting, for their pre-crime system that they're trying to usher in.
That's right. And I'm so glad you brought that up, dude, because man, I'm so glad you brought this up because I've actually been looking into this. So people keep talking about the IDF and how they're training our police officers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you just said, what year did Axon start putting their, cameras onto police officers? Well, that was 2014. Do you know why that was?
No, why?
Well, that was because of the Mike Brown shooting. Do you know anything about Mike Brown?
Oh, yeah, I remember all that. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm from there. I literally lived there, right? Like literally in that, like I lived 5 minutes away from where Mike Brown got killed. Like I could have heard the gunshot from my backyard. And so like the tear gas in my backyard from the riots, the whole deal, right? And so point being, I remember the parade that they had. And they had like some weird conspiracy that they were actually, there was like Democratic UN people or whatever that were actually practicing this parade before the shooting had happened. And then they had all these things like made as soon as it happened pretty much because people were like, how did they get all this shit made? And they're already doing this parade or whatever, right? There's a lot of weird shit that happened here. But what happened right after this was you had riots in New York. You had them in all these different areas at one time in 2014. Remember that?
Oh, it was nuts.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I remember like I was in some of the crazy protests, like, right, just because like I'm 18 and I want to go see like what's happening. You know what I mean? I was a wild boy. And I was like, what's going on? I mean, throwing, I saw people anyway, it was crazy. I could tell stories about that whole situation. But point being, even the Mike Brown story itself is a whole episode. It's insane. They left that guy out there all day. It was a big humiliation, a big demoralization ritual so that way they could enact what we're talking about here, which is a police surveillance state and a civilian surveillance state. But point being, the IDF was training the police in 2014.
Yeah, it's nuts.
This goes back to 2014, man. The IDF's been training our police officers since the Mike Brown shootings. So first of all, let's look at this. What year did the Axon, which by the way, Trump has a lot of investment in Axon, which is the body camera company.
Well, that's what's so funny about Axon. And I wonder, and I said this tongue in cheek, but I was like, I wonder if Axon is behind the recent movement to tear down all the flock cameras.
That's right. So 2014, after the shooting of Michael Brown and Ferguson, heightened the public demand for transparency and accountability. By 2016, nearly half of U.S. law enforcement agencies had adopted body cameras. Okay, so let me see if I can find this.
And real quick,
ahead,
I'm not saying that body cameras are a bad thing. What I'm saying is that this is one reason that they will use to usher in the surveillance state, right? So it's like a stepping stone to the surveillance state, based off what Larry Ellison said, right? Because like, hey, guess what? The police officers will be controlled. They'll be on their best, behavior. And everybody's like, yes, that's good because of all the horrible things they were doing. So in no way do I think that they're bad. I'm just saying, I think they use these events as a precursor to usher these things in.
That's right. And let me see if I can find this because I have it on my phone. I had it as a saved bookmark, but I don't have it on here. But there was a 2014 news article that discussed the IDF training our police. But right now, all I'm finding is Israel prepares major military operation in West Bank after 4 Palestinians and 2 Israelis killed. It's just talking about Mamdani. Okay, so it's not going to show it to me. But crazy shit's going on, by the way. Trump just like fell out of his limo like right before we started this.
Really?
How did he I don't know. He like collapsed.
You think Trump makes it all for the next 2.5 years?
Remember the Simpsons episode where like he was like dead in a casket?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't that while he was president?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I'm pretty sure it was.
It was?
I'm almost positive it was like right around, pretty much, yeah.
Well, they are
'Cause-
rolling out JD Vance to kind of save his hopes for 2028, going off on Joe Rogan, going on Joe Rogan and speaking the truth and all that type of stuff. And you're like, wait a minute, you're a shill. You're funded
Yeah.
by Peter Thiel. And once again, we got to ask ourselves, and I don't think that, the mainstream alternative media does this. Why are they saying these things?
Yeah.
Like, why is a person who's a puppet of Peter Thiel exposing the truth? And I think we both agree they're exposing the truth, so we lose faith in the system, so they can usher in their new one.
No, that's right, dude. I mean, it's so weird. It's like, what the hell? This guy just completely sits down, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
He just like sits down. Crazy.
Wow.
I mean, he's old, but it's very odd. Like, he's just standing there and just collapses. So like he wasn't doing anything, he just collapses. So anyway, just want to point that out. But yeah, I mean, it is a weird thing here. So let's show the Albert Pike, because we've kind of talked about the technocratic combination of shills and Zionist New World Order regime. So let's talk about this letter, and then we'll cover some of this crusade shit.
Yeah.
But
this letter always amazes me. Whether it's Albert Pike or not, whoever wrote it is spot on.
yeah, bro. I mean, come on. You can't, it doesn't, again, it goes back to the whole fruit of the works kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fruit of the tree. I don't care. Nobody can tell the future. So if this is happening, then clearly somebody's manipulating outcomes.
Oh, absolutely.
In a letter dated 22 January 1870, Mazzini wrote to Pike. Now, Albert Pike is this high mason who wrote the manual, if you like, of Scottish Freemasonry. He said the following: we must allow all of the federations to continue just as they are. It must appear as things are as they were in the beginning, with their systems, their central authorities, and diverse modes of correspondence between high grades of the same right, organized as they are at present, but we must create a super right, which will remain unknown, to which we will call those Masons of high degree, whom we...
That's from the book Angels and Demons right there, dude. I used to love that book, bro. That says Illuminati both forward, backwards, upside down, and right side up.
I like the movie.
Yeah, it's so cool the way that they did that, where it's like, I forgot what they're called. They're like something gram, like Enneagram or whatever gram. But essentially that word spells out Illuminati no matter which way you turn it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because you can see how it mirrors itself, right?
Yeah.
And so it's perfectly symmetrical in a weird way. It's very crazy, dude. I used to love reading that book, dude. I read that book at like 12 years old. I was
really
into
damn.
I was really into weird shit. And I was really into the Illuminati after that, of course, and because the whole book's about that. But point being, yeah, this probably wasn't Albert Pike. It really doesn't matter, because somebody could have attributed it to Albert Pike, and that person still be a powerful, person who's writing it.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it just
That's how I
adds
view
to it adds to the lore
Mhm.
of Albert Pike, which is a master mason. And maybe that's part of that, like, non-linear warfare, right? Like, why are they exposing this letter that's attributed to this high-ranking Masons when you think that Masons are in control of the world? Like, why are they even bringing this up to the public? Or how did it even resurface?
Right. I know. Yeah, exactly. People wanted people to know about it because people have talked about this for years.
Yeah.
shall select. With regard to our brothers in Masonry, these men must be pledged to the strictest secrecy. Through this supreme right, we will govern all Freemasonry, which will become the one international center, the more powerful because its direction will be unknown. Now, Albert Pike wrote a letter to Mazzini, and that was dated August 15, 1871, in which he propagated that there should be a world order, a one order where all nations are under the control of one central organization. And in order to achieve this, they planned, and there are numerous quotes for this, so I've put a number on the screen because some will say, I don't trust this, I don't trust that, I don't trust the other. Here are references down there. There are references up there. There will be references.
I mean, this is back whenever you could get more information about it, it seems, on the subject, because we've had a whitewashed.
Who is
we've
that
been-
guy?
I don't know exactly, but I know that he's got something. I mean, look at this intelligence officer in the Royal Canadian Navy talked about this. Um, William Guy Carr, former intelligence officer, talked about this. So, I mean, that's, I guess, important enough, right? Let me go ahead and pull up some of these, what the world wars.
Yeah. When you read it,
Were.
you're like, holy crap, this actually is happening.
That's right. That's right. So this is the alleged letter here. The first war, of course, was about breaking. We must be brought in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the powers of the czars in Russia. And so, of course, we know that happened. They killed the czars. This was written before that, right? So then they could put in a fortress of atheistic communism, which is also something that happened. The divergences caused by the agentur or agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments in the order to weaken the religions. So that's really ultimately the point here, right? Is the religions. That's the ultimate enemy, right? And so then after that, you have the Second World War, which was about fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and political Zionists. We see that happen, of course. The Nazism is destroyed, and political Zionism is strong enough to be instituted in a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. So, of course, during the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which it has. Socialism, communism, they're the same thing. So then the Third World War, this is what we're talking about today, must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati, so from the past two world wars, between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other, and we see everybody hates Zionists, or they hate Islam, or they love Islam, or they hate Zion or love Zionists, right? So isn't that exactly what they're laying out here?
Oh, 100% they're laying that out. Just look at the Middle East right now. And I'll tell you who we should really pay attention to in all of this stuff. I mean, we always talk about Israel and Iran, but if they are trying to manufacture biblical prophecy and follow the script, or at least their interpretation of it, pay attention to what's going on in Turkey right now. Because based off Ezekiel 38 of the bloodlines that they mentioned, that's actually in modern day Turkey. And Orderon at this point is very vocal about being a speaker for the Muslim world, and that it's his job to end this, Zionist state of Israel. They're out of control. And he's been very vocal about it. And they're actually a huge country. They have a major role within Europe, being that bridge over to Eastern Europe to a certain extent from the West. And pay attention. I personally think pay attention to what is going to happen through Turkey. I wonder if Turkey is going to come to the aid of Iran somehow at some point, and it's going to kick this thing off.
Yeah, they've been talking a lot about Turkey. Either you have the traditionalists like Alexander Dugin, who says that NATO needs to be destroyed, we need to get Turkey out of NATO, or you have the Zionists saying NATO needs to be destroyed, we need Turkey out of NATO. So it's interesting because they both seem to pose against each other, yet they have the same goals. And so that's, again, judge it by the fruits. These guys are not against each other. It's a false dialectic.
Oh, absolutely.
Being led in by these same occultist, Freemasonic type Illuminati figures, which, by the way, the Illuminati is only the brotherhood of the illumined ones, which could include people of the Knights of Malta, people of the Freemasons, people of all kinds of cults or societies.
I think they're all working together, right?
Yes.
I think,
of course. Yeah.
Because I think, if you talk about the control structure of the world, I have a biblical view of that. So I think, according to the Bible, you have these powers and principalities that rule over different regions of the world. And under their control are these ancient bloodlines that make the upper echelon of these royal orders or these secret societies. And they battle back and forth for control, money, stuff like that. But I think ultimately, at least at this point, from what I can see, is that they're all on the same page. And somebody, like in every WWF event, you have your hero and then you have the heel. And that changes depending on what side or what part of the region of the earth you're from. But to me, it looks almost orchestrated. And just go back to like with Putin, right? Like Putin comes out, he's super anti-Zionist and stuff like that. And then a video gets shown of his rabbi from Chabad claiming that Putin runs every single thing he wants to do in the Middle East through them. So how can you really be at odds with them when you're still running everything past them? And it's all because it's one big magic trick, if you ask me.
That's right. And the, and when he says he poses against the Rothschilds, well, they do, I mean, come on, they're the same thing. So this is what we're talking about here. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issues, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery. And by the way, guys, this sounds like a Freemason wrote it because they hate atheists more than anything.
They want you to worship the architect, right?
Yes, they hate atheists more than Christians because they know they can at least convert a Christian, right? There's a chance you can get a Christian to be a mystic. There's no chance you can get an atheist to be a mystic, right? And so showing through the bloody turmoil, what they call the origin of savagery being atheism, by generating atheism, by using 501c3s to destroy the, modern day Christian, movement into what it's been, this degradation. And then, now people hate either Christianity or they're in some bullshit version of it to where they could easily be swayed out of it into this Luciferian doctrine. Do you see what I'm going with that?
Oh, absolutely. I think they're purposely trying. I think they're going to eventually blame everything on the Abrahamic faith. Right. So think about that. What they're talking about in this letter. You have this war of the Zionists, which are made up of Christians and Jews. You have the Muslim world going at it. And let's just take, for example, they have a giant war that just destroys everything. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to blame it on the Bible. They're going to blame it on the Abrahamic religions. And I think that's what will usher in this Luciferian doctrine, this mystery Babylon alien cult.
That's right. Blame it on the religions. And also, the atheists have already kind of been blamed, haven't they? I mean, people are now doing this new movement towards Christianity because of the atheistic culture we've had for the past, 15 years, right? So I think that part has already happened, kind of.
Yeah.
So then everywhere the citizens... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, just think about this. I mean, you're seeing this in real time because of all the atheist stuff and all the, demonic stuff that's going on in the world. I think there's people who were once atheists, to your point, that are now turning to the various religions, specifically Christianity. And that plays into the hands of these powerful elites that can then mold and control people within these institutions of religion.
That's right. And as you see here, it says, then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light of the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. There it is.
There you go.
And that's exactly what we're talking about, right? So brought finally out into the public view, this manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism. So again, I'm always looking at the reactionaries because that's how they work. I only go off their blueprint, bro. I studied these guys for a long time and now I understand like how they operate. So I have no beef with any person. I just look at the overall blueprint and I go, that person seems like an agent, whether they know it or not, right? The agentus, as he calls it, of the Illuminati.
Well, that's the beauty of knowing the end game, because if you know the end game, you can then start to make sense of the people who are talking. And then you ask yourself, well, I know they're telling me some truth, but does this also align with, or can this lead to the end game that I know that's happening?
That's right.
And when you start looking with this Holy War stuff, whether it's, Alex Jones or Sneeko, or throw in Nick Fuentes, or, any of these people, throw in the Zionists, right? There's nothing more that the Zionists like like Ben Shapiro than having Alex Jones go out there and saying all Muslims are horrible and we're in a holy war.
That's right. That's right.
So for me, once I see that someone's talking points align with the end goal, I immediately become suspect. And that doesn't mean that everybody who promotes those things are part of intelligence or anything like that. I think there are true ideologues within the movement. But nonetheless, if it ends up in, their end game, we should start to pause a second and just say, I'm not going to follow them. I'm going to listen to what they're going to say, but I'm not going to follow them because it's a trap.
Yeah. I'm following nobody that, follow your discernment. That's what I do. I follow my discernment. Look at this, dude. What the hell?
Well, that's AI right there. That's AI.
Is it?
I do want to say this also.
That's good AI, dude. That's good AI. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
There's AI out there that I could usually tell. That's good. AI,
that is
dude.
good.
That's good.
You don't know if you're coming or going.
And you don't anymore.
And I think also, at least from what I understand about history and revolutions and always having a hidden hand behind it, there are going to be people within this media sphere, these influencers, who are going to call for a revolution. Many have, especially when you talk about I guess you would say the occupation of the American government or the perceived occupation of the American government, especially with the combination or the fusing of the Israeli military and the American military. And I heard this one guy, I don't want to throw shade on him, but like whatever, he's like, the only solution is a revolution. And, it's correct. But the question is, are the people who are calling for revolution going to be putting their bodies on the front line? Or are they going to call for other people's blood to be spilled? Right. And to me, that's super Zionist. Whether it's for your cause or for the Zionist cause, you're still calling for other people to spill their blood. And to me, that's why it's important to understand the world or the human experience through a biblical worldview, because if you don't, you can fall for this trap.
Right. No, that's for sure, man. Welcome in, Daniel. How you doing, man? Faith without works is dead. You're preaching another gospel. Must be talking about, I don't know who he's talking about. Definitely not us, because we don't preach gospels here. Let's pull up a little bit of this crusade action and see what we got going on. This is like a 20-minute thing. So let me see if I can find, because there were some good clips from the actual interview with Sneeko and Alex Jones, dude. I watched the whole
I saw that too.
Yeah, I watched like the whole thing, and it was just
it's a joke. That's another thing.
Performative.
It's performative. They're both kind of laughing. They both look demonically possessed.
Absolutely.
And that's why I just either shake my head or pull my hair out, because I don't understand how other people within the conspiracy sphere or the truther sphere can look in that and go, this is not serious. This is a joke. And then take it one step further. Why are these people doing this? So
I look at this and I go, again, I'm not in this world. You know what I mean? I'm examining and studying it. Right. And so when I see Angelo Groiper say, what a funny name, say that Nick Fuentes cries laughing at Alex Jones destroying Sneeko. At no point in that whole video did I see him destroy Sneeko. All I saw him was he gave like low IQ arguments about Islam that actually kind of drove anybody with any kind of level of like thinking ability towards Sneeko because he had no good arguments. And then everybody that agreed with him are just like idiots, that are being galvanized like useful idiots. So let's watch a little bit of this. It's insane. So these are the three guys, by the way, that are coming in and ushering this in. By the way, it's Fuentes, Alex Jones, and Sneeko, who are like in this movement here.
And real quick before we watch this, understand this: Alex Jones looks like an op, right? InfoWars looks like some types of intelligence op. You have Nick Fuentes, who's tied to Catboy Intelligence. I don't know exactly who funds him, but it's connected to the Cat Boys. And then you have this Sneeko character who became Muslim because of Andrew Tate, right? Who was all part of the red pill movement. Like, these are the people who are now pushing this crusade, which is why we have to be suspect of it all.
And he calls himself, well, I shouldn't say that. He talks just like Andrew Tate, by the way. Like, he started doing this thing where his cadence and the way he would speak and say words became just like Andrew Tate. And I'm like, what is this weird shit that I'm watching, you know?
Also, he started wearing that after this crusade thing started happening and people were like calling to deport Sneeko or whatever, although he's an American citizen. He also started wearing the black suit and tie, like kind of performing like he's Malcolm X or something.
Yes. Yeah. He's like Lex Friedman. I don't know. All right, let's pull this up.
You can deport me if Sean Strickland can't knock me down, huh? You can't stop me. I'm coming.
I know. Then tell me.
Coming.
I'm coming. Durka Muhammad.
Allahu Akbar.
See, like, what is this? This is what I'm saying. Like, this is this is just performative. And how are they saying that he's destroying him with this? Anyway.
The slavery that we take the women as sex slaves, and
inshallah, you become Abdul Alex Jones.
And look at his face, dude. I mean, come on, this is insane. Inshallah, you're gonna be doing this. So he's over here doing this weird Muslim shit. Yeah. It's just insane, man.
They both look like possessed by demons.
Yeah.
And one guy in the comments, real quick, we were talking about how they're all kind of working together on the same place. And he goes, I don't think they're, envy comes into play and they're not really on the same page. I think the way they're all on the same page is because of demonic possession. Right. I think the demons are all on the same page. And I think at some point at the very top, they're merely vessels for demonic activity.
I had it's so funny you say that. I actually had a funny take today with Doc Brown. We had on a Prometheus report. I opened up. Okay, let me frame it this way. Every Friday we do a show in the morning. It's a news show for anybody who hasn't seen it. Check it out. It's great. Prometheus report. We talk about all the current events, give it a different spin because I'm looking at shit from a different angle. But I was like, dude, we should do like a segment because every time I get home, like, I'm getting home in the morning, I shower, and I'm like I think of shit in the shower. Who doesn't, right? That's what everybody does. And this morning I had a thought, dude, and it's a hot take, and a lot of people are going to love this when they hear it at first. So just hear me out, okay? I haven't fully fleshed this thought out yet, but I do feel like something in it is true. I don't believe in demonic possession. Now, let me explain that. I believe in demonic possession in the biblical sense of like it can happen to you, but the process of it happening, I believe, is you actually accepting. So, for instance, we don't control our thoughts, right? We have thoughts that we can't control. But how much are you giving those thoughts entertainment? How much are you applying those thoughts in opening yourself up to them? And that, I believe, leads to a personality change that is demonic possession because of this. Because I believe that we do have thoughts that come to us from entities.
Oh, yeah.
Demons. But I don't think they have the power to possess you without you giving them the power is what I'm trying to explain here. And so there's something to this where I'm like, yeah, I don't believe in demonic possession as far as like you're a victim. It just happened to you. You were just walking around one day and then a demon hopped in you and you became possessed.
Are you invited?
There is an aspect of give and go. There's an aspect of like, give and take with that. And I think that you have to do something in order to become that way. That's just my opinion, so.
Yeah. I can't prove this, right? I really can't, but I believe this, right? It's not a hill that I'm willing to die on, but I really believe this. I think at the upper echelon, right? When you're talking about the highest level of Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, Shabbat guy, you name it, the Jesuits, I think at the very top to reach the highest levels, throw in the royal families, if you will, you have to go through some type of ritual where you actually invite the demon into your body to be a vessel. I really believe that to be true. At least I believe it to be true of the royal families.
That's right. So when we talk about alien possession and things like that, it's like, dude, stop. You're giving this boogeyman too much power. And isn't that always what it is? There's some boogeyman that they want you to be scared of. This is another one of those things. This whole demonic possession or alien, abduction and all these things are, in my opinion, that's just all it is. It's another boogeyman to get you to give over your own control that you have.
Yeah. But I do believe it's real 100%. And I believe that our behavior can open up windows for this possession to take place. I do believe that.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. It's a funny thought I had because it's like, I know that there's biblically something there. I know it's real. I know there's entities that affect your mind and try to get into your soul, but it's like, it can't. You have more power than, you have literally God, you're God's child. And if that's the case, they have nothing over you unless you give it to them. And that's really how I feel. You know, nothing can touch you. You know what I mean? As long as you're strong within your connection with your creator, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. The Holy Spirit protects us from that.
And you
type
don't
of
have
stuff.
to be like some biblical dogmatic, you know, crazy Christian either. You know what I mean? To have that happen. It's really just a connection that you have with God that, you know, you read the Bible a little bit to see what pops out at you. And, you know, you study with what it feels like. But I think some people like AA or like anything else, they like to make it their whole identity, which is great. But I also think that there's an aspect of like opening yourself up to other people in a way where you're not dogmatic and in a way where they could be. Think about it this way. If I go and hit some regular normal person and start talking about how they're trying to put nanoparticles inside your brain so that way they could start sending information into your mind, people will look at me like I'm crazy if I go straight to the deep end, right? But if I just kind of talk about surface level stuff and work them down, that's cool. And I'm just saying that sometimes I think people could be a little abrasive in their ideas, even when it comes to God or Christianity. And so we got to be more open to people.
Yeah, I would say, because there's some things, especially my spiritual beliefs, where I am dogmatic about it, but there needs to be a sense of humility as well.
Yes.
Right. When interacting with people, like I'm not going to change what I believe for other people, but when discussing things with people, be humble about it. And if ultimately our goal, at least my goal, is to, you know, spread the gospel to people, I use real life scenarios or conspiracies ultimately to point to that. But if you lead with this dogmatic, abrasive, in your face, you're evil, you're going to hell, this, and that, it's not going to work. They're not going to listen to you. A wall's going to go up and they're just going to reject everything you said. So yeah, I'm with you on that, especially when we're trying to bring the truth to people.
Like when
a little humility.
Like when Tucker Carlson says that, now I may agree with this. I'm going to be honest. I agree with this. But when Tucker Carlson goes, you know, abortion is child sacrifice, I go, okay, cool your jets a little bit. I agree, but like that's a crazy thing to say when you're trying to like get people to, you know what I'm saying? Like that's my point. Like when you go full to the deep end, it tends to send people the other way, which sometimes I think is the point.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm against abortion. I do think it's some type of child sacrifice, but I wouldn't just go tell people that. What I would say is this, and I remember, because I used to be an atheist, a big time atheist, and I was pro-abortion, right? And I just thought to myself, well, if you stop somebody's heart anywhere other than the womb, it's considered murder. But in the womb, it's considered abortion and it's completely illegal. And then that didn't sit right with me, right? That would be hypocritical. So that's how, you know, I came to the realization that, you know, killing an innocent child is wrong without hammering somebody in the head and sounding like a crazy person at first, that person, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you see a literal spark of light whenever somebody inseminates somebody, right? So there's something there. There's life. As we've covered on this show with the blue light episode, you know, your body creates light from life. From the life in your body, it creates its own UV light, which means that if there's light showing itself whenever you're inseminated, there's life there because it's impossible to happen without there being life force moving. So it's very interesting because, the blue light shit is crazy. I don't know if you saw that episode, but man, it's nuts.
Let's see what these idiots have to say.
Yeah. Dude.
And people are loving this shit.
Yeah. They love it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I even loved it. I was like, this is absolutely insane because I know what he's doing, but it's also like, man, it's just so crazy.
Marry your cousin. It's so much fun.
You really have.
Well, I mean, I laugh at it not because he's funny, but because it's so ridiculous.
Yes, absolutely.
Like,
it's not even like, oh man, this guy's the truth, right? It's more like, oh my God, like what a mockery he's making of everything he's done up until now.
Yeah.
With doing this, it's absolutely insane. And what's crazier to me is he's doing all this after losing everything, but perceivably, I should put that disclaimer there. Losing everything, right? So it's like, come on, man, this guy's more controlled than ever.
Cannot.
Like I said, you see Alex starts yelling. Sneeko tries to make
me down, huh?
Look.
You can't stop me. I'm coming.
I know. Then tell me. I'm coming. Durka, Muhammad.
All right, he's just going back through it. Yeah, I don't, it's just crazy, dude. It's like, let's see what else we got here. He's just going back.
But did you see how Sneeko had to take a time out and they went over to Saudi Arabia and walked around that black cube And then he came back and he's like, everybody says if you love, the Middle East so much and hate America, why don't you just move there? And while he was out there, he goes, well, I thought about that, but then I thought I had a greater mission in life, and that's to turn the entire, all of America to become Muslim. And
Really?
and once again, that's never going to happen, especially the abrasive way that he's doing it. So I just have to question his motives right there.
Yeah. And this is like, guys, I know that we're older. I mean, I'm like 30, but we're like, I'm old enough to understand that this is not most people's life and this is not in most people's world. But understand this, for everybody 30 and under, everybody 28, 27, 26 and under that are young men who majority don't have girlfriends because of this new world that they live in, where they're sitting at home on their phones. This is what they're seeing. They're seeing their heroes. They're seeing these people fight with each other. For instance, you have Clavicular and Sneeko, right?
And that's another thing.
These are popular people for these young kids, and they're watching them fight. So it's splintering the young kids off into these crazy, revolutionary ideologies.
And this is real quick. The crazy thing right here is that, and once again, we got to ask ourselves questions. Is Sneeko an idiot, or does he have an agenda?
Oh, come on.
Because when Clavicular came out, it's clear that he was part of this transhumanist movement. It was clear that he was connected to Peter Thiel. And then he did that thing with the rabbi on it. But you know who still supported him? Sneeko. He was friends with him. And it wasn't until he went to Israel that was a bridge too far.
Well,
right?
And the thing is, his ex-girlfriend said that he was super anti-Semitic. And he was actually like super anti-Jew, super pro-Hitler, Heil Hitler kind of guy. And now he's actually working with the Zionist regime, which again, if you understand the nuance of this, what's the difference?
There's no
difference. That's when you get to understand, like, this guy still is a Nazi because the Nazis are the Zionists. I mean, there's no difference here. It's all the same global.
But it's interesting.
Balls. Go ahead.
That distinction that we make is ultimately what's going to lead to that third war that letter from supposedly Albert Pike talks about. Right. It's that good versus bad paradigm. And to me, that's just a fallacy, right? I don't believe in the good versus bad paradigm in domestic politics, and I don't believe it in geopolitics, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they're really pushing here.
So let's see here. We got some interesting stuff going on.
And he's on Piers Morgan. This is one thing.
Right.
Clavicular is the one thing I don't understand, right? Because I'm older. Right. But is he popular? Do people really follow him, or do they like to watch his little clips because they think he's a train wreck? But how he got on Piers Morgan.
Well, it's not hard to understand. Whenever you're getting pushed by the people who run the algorithms and you're connected with the people who run the algorithms, you're getting shoved down people's throat to the point where they're going to watch you. They're forced to. I was forced to know who Clavicular was. It's not like I searched this guy. This guy wouldn't get off of my feed. And I'm like, who is this? Like Clark Kent looking motherfucker, dude? Like, what's going on? And that's what it is, dude. So let's check
see what the city has to say.
Aviv was, extremely well received. The locals there were extremely nice. And I had a good time.
I'm asked if you would apologize for the Heil Hitler.
I can't
it's echoing because I guess, I don't know, maybe it's his audio. I don't know. So I thought he was in this with them. So he's just reacting. So they were saying that he ended up punching his set and going crazy in this over this. So let's see what he says.
More performative stuff by Sneeko.
Yes. Let's see here. Oh, it's loading. Shit.
Wait, did Jeezy say he looks like a Cuck Kent, as in Joe Kent? And if that's the case, I kind of see it.
Oh my God, dude. Yes. They're both like Clark Kent, Joe Kent. Yeah. Wow. Good call. Hold on. Let me reload this shit. All right. Here we go. I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
Video incident, because you were there, obviously.
There's no one there. Like, you're the brave soldier for clubbing in Tel Aviv and getting paid for it. What an actual scumbag, bro. And so many people aren't going to say this. Going to say you're burning a bridge.
Love you, Sneeko.
Because they want clout. All scumbags. Scumbags, bro. You're going to turn a blind eye to this. What everyone sees is plainly obvious because you want to get clout. Here's what they're going to say. You're burning a bridge. Sneeko loses his allies. If you think that I'm going to and I'm going to ignore this so that for a content relationship, you lost your mind.
But he ignored everything else.
I don't think there's anything more to because he knew
The
exactly
point of this is the
what
beef.
Israel was. Little
It's like rap
prostitute
beef.
for Jewish supremacists. I'm bliss. Oh, la da da, la da da. I'm in the club, twerking in the club, being a good little bitch for Israel. I don't know any better. I'm just a stupid little looks maxer. You fuck you, man. Like, bro, it's sick.
He's trying to sell it. You can see he's trying to sell it.
Like, in what world does that make
Shit,
you
bro.
furious?
I know
Fucking
he's selling it.
sellouts, bro.
He doesn't even look flushed in the
Sorry,
face. He
fuck
doesn't
the
look
law.
mad at all, dude. Anyway, it's just it's performative, as you said, dude. You know what the fuck is this?
I'm surprised he didn't say halaka malaika at the end of that or whatever they say.
Yeah. Well, we also have apparently Andrew Tate exposed Sneeko.
Oh yeah, this is funny right here. Is this him exposing Sneeko?
Yeah. Why is it gonna play music like that? Let's see. if
And
it-
listen, and one thing I want to say real quick, I'm all for a Saul to Paul moment, right? I don't think that we should be judged for our past if we truly are repentant for our ways, but
Yeah.
judge the fruit that comes after that repentance. And Sneeko is still acting like a major player within this influence cultural wars that we're seeing.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's at a heightened level more than ever. You see the whole, it's all splintering off, which is the point of it, you know.
And they all got clippers. And that's another thing. You think these
Yes.
people's reach is natural? No. And unfortunately, I was looking at, Sneeko clips recently, and now my entire timeline is filled with Sneeko clippers. And they have like 5 or 10 people that cut and paste everything, and then they upload it, and that's how it gets all over the place. So all this stuff is so unnatural.
Well, that's exactly what's going to happen to my feed now that I just looked that up on this show here. But but it's interesting. Like, yeah, like you say, Andrew Tate had 26,000 fan accounts. 26,000 fan pages. So like when you have a fan page, they post everything you post. And then he had 26,000 of those. So he's like a clone of himself 26,000 times that made it to where you had to see him everywhere. And when they tried to shut him down and took him off of the internet, that's why you were still seeing him even when he got canceled. So this guy was able to permeate the internet no matter what, which is interesting. Like some of me does think that maybe he's like, the system is after him for something, but also he's in the system. So it's a weird thing where I just can't quite peg him because I know he's involved with the crime syndicate shit. Like it's so clear that he's got to be like mob tied, but also he seems to have actually pissed off some kind of elitist regime.
I mean, but has he though? Because I understand what you're saying, because once I found out that the video of him getting arrested appears to be AI,
edited,
right? Then you're like, this is all theater.
That is that is where you go.
Fake, if that's fake, then it's all theater.
That's right. I mean, that's where you kind of go, So this holy war, actually, let's go to this first. Yeah, let me pull that back up. I forgot about that. Let's see what he has to say about. Let's see what he has to say about.
Seems he's got himself exposed, and all these revelations are going to come to light. So I'm going to tell you a very fact.
I can't even play it because it beats and shit. Whatever. All right, so yeah, he's gonna talk shit about Sneeko.
The one thing I have to say here, real quick, is when, regardless of what side of the argument that you're on, right? Whether you're for the agenda, against the agenda, whatever, you should listen to all these influencers talk about each other because they're spitting truth. It's the problem is when we're so tribal that say someone like, people who like Sneeko, if Nick Fuentes comes out and says something about Sneeko, they're gonna go, oh no, that's not true. That's not true. Let's say you like Nick Fuentes. Sneeko comes out and says something about Nick Fuentes. You go, oh, that's not true. That's not true. But in reality, what these two people are accusing each other of is both true, which is why I've just come to the conclusion that it's all fake and lame.
I agree. So I guess 2 days ago, Nick Fuentes was saying, calling for this dude to be, well, we'll move on, but the saga continues with these guys, dude. That's the point of this. It just goes on and on and on and on. You could find the saga.
Clearly unraveling, coming undone.
Because you have to understand how this all started, guys. This started with one solid movement of young men that were together, America first, young men that were really trying to I guess anti-Zionist together at first. Then it became this Jewish supremacy. And then that's when Fuentes splits off because he's like, you guys went too far for me, even though he's been a closeted gay Democrat the whole time, shilling for the right. And then you have, this now is turning into this bigger thing where Alex Jones enters and Andrew Tate and him have beef now. So it's splintering off over and over again, even with him in Clavicular. So I just wonder, what is this doing for the young male, it's really making it to where they can't galvanize behind any movement because they're all over the place, which might be the point of it, is
Yeah.
chaos.
And recently, I think the next phase of this crap talking is they're now all accusing each other to being Jews. Nick Fuentes is a crypto Jew. This guy's a crypto Jew. Dan Bazarian's a crypto Jew. You can't trust any of them. And they're hurling these accusations at each other. And it's just, I mean, to me, it's comedy.
Speaking of Jews, dude, we got 10 Jews, 10 joules, gold
There we
coins.
go.
Let's go. I don't even know what that is, dude, but that's awesome. Thank you very
Yeah.
much, Tara. I have no idea what the hell that is, but that's dope. A little present. Yeah, so let's move on to a little bit more of the crusade aspect of this.
Yeah.
It's just again, it's like, where does this go? I don't know. I think it's chaos for the purpose of chaos.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Oh, okay. Get to the Alex Jones Crusade 2.0. Maybe we could skip through some of this and check it out. I was going to pull up like his interview with Fuentes, which is where he first started talking about this. Well, maybe let me show this, by the way, because this is not like something new. Alex Jones has been talking about something adjacent to this for a long time. Remember the Holy Wars t-shirts?
Oh, that came out a week after Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
That's right. And so
Or fake assassinated. I don't know.
That's right. And so it leads right into this thing that we're in right here. I wonder if it's going to open up a different page. Okay, here we go. InfoWars. Where are the Holy Wars?
I know they're on the web. I had to look again. They're on the website, but I used to have an image of that I made. There you go. That's not it.
No, Holy Wars collection. Let's see what we got.
Yeah.
There it is. It's Crusader Cross.
There you go.
And now we're in this Crusader, right? You shall conquer. Leather patch hat. There's a War on Your Soul t-shirt. So, and this guy, it's just crazy because he's a little ahead of the times with this, almost like he had some kind of insider information with where the narrative's heading.
Yeah. And once again, I just think this is just more evidence that behind every revolution is a hidden hand. And
yes. That's what we're laying out. Ultimately, that's what we're pointing out here.
Yeah. And it's an unpopular opinion. And I don't know why. Maybe because people are too tribal. But like I said, once you see the world through this lens, it's hard to unsee it.
That's right. And he goes into he just kind of elaborates on the history of the empire, the Ottoman Empire, and how they took over. And don't get me wrong, dude. I really think that there's an aspect to this where you are going to be choosing between Noahide or Shiite law or whatever the fuck it's called, Sharia law. And it's because of this false dichotomy created by these Babylonian Jesuit types, right? These, it's all the same thing. Whenever you look at the two Babylons and you understand that through the Catholics, this is an aspect. The Jesuits helped galvanize this new version of Islam that we see today. It all is a part of the same thing. So then when you look at this, the taking over the Middle East, how much of this was galvanized by the Jesuits? I don't know. I don't know the full iteration of this history, but I know that they had ties to this movement. So.
Yeah. And the one thing I want to say there are at the very top of all these movements, there are people connected to intelligence. But the people who are ultimately going to pay the price are the ideologues that, whether their intentions are probably pure, but the ideologues are going to fall for this and they're going to cause a lot of the damage.
Right. No, for sure. Hey, shout out Sam Tripoli, man. Shared our shit on X. That's awesome. I'm surprised, because we're ripping on, doing a little ripping on Alex. But hey, man, that's what we do, man. But no, it's not even not about him. It's about this whole movement, this whole scene that we're looking at. We're just dissecting all the aspects, whether it be Larry Ellison, Peter Thiel, Austin University, connections with Jack Neal. We could go anywhere with this because it's all one movement that is rearing its head in all these different ways, right? So it's an all-encompassing topic when you think about it.
It's 31 flavors, and they don't care as long as you eat their ice cream.
That's right. Yeah. And it's all made by them. So, you really have no option, do you?
Yeah, and I also thought about this. It's the greatest fear that these elites have, in my opinion, is that we lose faith in the system. So they don't care who you put your faith in, whether it's a Democrat, a Republican, a Zionist, an anti-Zionist. It doesn't matter. They only care that you listen to somebody who says the solution is the system. We just need to vote harder. We need to do this. We need to change the system, but it's still the system that's going to save you. And
That's
that's
right.
ultimately what they're trying to push.
Right. And so I remember Ryan Gable, shout out Ryan Gable, man. Because he talked about the Crusader tattoos that Pete Hegseth has a
Yeah.
long time ago, like over a year ago. He talked about this. And Ryan Gable's always like ahead of the time with shit. He's like good at like reading the writings on the wall, kind of like we're doing now. And he pointed out, a long time ago that like the Holy War t-shirts, Alex Jones, and then this Pete Hegseth with the Crusader tattoos, we are heading towards a holy war, some kind of religious, war against Islam and Christians, etc. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what we're seeing over and over.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find.
Oh, is this with his
image.
his high T testosterone video that he made?
Yeah, I'll play this while I find his Crusader tattoos.
Yeah, look at Pete Hegseth.
Here, I'll play this. All right. Good for you. So here, I'll pull up. I found it. So we got the Crusader crosses tattoo here. I'll pull up because man, like you can see where this is going. And what's his name, dude? Pete Hegseth, right? And so if I was to look at the etymology of the word like Heg in Greek, I wonder what that word means. Let's see here. Hegel, a German philosopher, German ideal. Oh, dude, what are the odds that? Wow. Germanic Enlightenment figure named Hegel. And he's got, you know what I'm saying? When you have this kind of weird Nazi. Anyway, I make a lot of weird connections with names.
Well,
I think that there's a lot to the names.
Well, one thing about like say Pete Hegseth or Caroline Levinsky, understand that the people at the front, like Pete Hegseth, he is just a puppet, right? He is a character in the script. The real power are like the deputies behind them. And they're all connected to the Palantir Mafia.
That's right,
This whole thing. That's the real power. They don't care who they, parade in front of everybody to perform their word magic on people and galvanize them to go with certain groups and certain agendas. These guys are just, talking heads. The real power is the names that you don't pay attention to, and they're all connected to Palantir, the Zio cartel, all of that kind of stuff.
That's right. And so, all this stuff, again, as you're saying, is connected. I'm actually going to start making connections here. So let's look at also Steve Bannon, right? Steve Bannon talked about at the TPUSA conference that this is a crusade, a jihad, a holy war against the deep state.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we hear Alex Jones trying to say. But the thing is, they're working with the deep state. It's the Bolshevik Revolution all over again, guys. That's what we're looking at, right?
Well, think about Steve Bannon. At the same event, he exposed the Greater Israel Project. But then you read the Epstein docs and you find out that he's connected to Epstein. So it's like, why is someone connected to Epstein who has an email correspondence with him then exposing the Greater Israel Project?
Yeah.
Unless they want you to know. Once again, they want us to know all this stuff. We think, oh, we're such good noticers, and this applies to me as well. We notice what they want us to notice for the most part.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it just shows that I wonder if he is Opus Dei, Tracy. I wouldn't be surprised because Peter Thiel is Opus Dei connected. His mentor was the Opus Dei priest. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. But Steve Bannon's really into like the Kali Yuga and shit, right? He's a mystic Christian type. So
yeah, I believe he's actually a Jesuit. There was an article, and you could type this up and just type in Steve Bannon thanks either St. Ignatius of Loyola or the Jesuits for his sobriety. And that's like the title of the article, where he gives thanks to the Jesuits for his sobriety.
Oh my God, you're right. And he tells it to Tucker. And these guys, again, we're getting back into this traditionalist movement characters. That the false dialectic of this is the Zionist on one side who are instituting. They aren't even instituting all the technology, but there's like heads of it that happen to be Zionist who are the heads of the technology. And then you have the other side, which are these guys, and they're a part of the same movement. So here, let's pull that up because holy shit, man. Tucker, Tucker, who does shows with Alexander Dugan and Steve Bannon.
I think that when he went to go meet with Dugan over in Russia, he was still wearing his Kabbalah bracelet. And I think Dugan was like, listen, dude, they're not going to believe you're really a Christian if you keep wearing that Kabbalah bracelet. Please take it off for the sake of the op.
Wow. So when we're talking about the Illuminati, Opus Dei, priest, I wouldn't be surprised if they had some kind of connection with the Jesuits. It is in the same kind of field. Steve Bannon tells Tucker he will pray spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius of Loyola if he goes to jail.
There you go. Jesuit.
Yeah. He says that if we don't win this country is going to devolve into some kind of neo-Marxist totalitarian regime. It's heading that way regardless. Now that we know that Trump is actually on the side of the deep state, we know that his forecasting is probably exactly what they're trying to bring in, right? So he's actually telling you what they're trying to bring in. When you look at it under that light, you understand he's actually telling you what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which is, I always invert things in that way because that's how you get to the truth, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm still blown away when you brought that up about Alexander Dugin and his article in 1996 called The Gnostic, where he argues for the left-hand path, which is considered dark magic and Western esoteric beliefs, right? So here you have this guy masquerading as a Christian orthodoxy, but his true beliefs, he believes in magic, and he's arguing for dark magic. And this is Putin's brain. And make no mistake about it, just like he's Putin's brain, Steve O'Bannon was the brain of Trump. Especially that's what got him elected the first time.
That's right.
He's the one that tricked all of us into thinking Trump was some type of populist.
That's exactly right, dude. And it's like it was a symbiotic relationship between the two to mirror what he was doing in Russia. That's exactly right. And something interesting about that, we should actually look at that, because where does at the core of magic principles, all these things, Gnosticism, it comes from the Kabbalah, it comes from Babylonian, this first Babylonian religion, which is Luciferianism, right? Essentially, man becomes God through enlightenment, through gnosis. And so when he acts like he's against the Israeli regime, which has the Solomon seal as their flag, which is a magical emblem, right? Bill Cooper lays out something very interesting, that they didn't have the book of the law when Solomon was actually ruling. So what was he worshiping? What was his temple for? Because Josiah, later, they found it whenever Malachi and Josiah, they found in Chronicles 2:24, I think you can find this, that they actually found the book of the law later. So this is after. So what was his temple to? What was he worshiping? What is the Enochian magic, right? What is this? And so this gets into this idea that it all comes from the same place. And so when people act like they're against the Israeli Zionist regime, but they're also Gnostic, you're looking at you're looking at the Kabbalah tree. You're looking at the two pillars in Freemasonry, right? You're looking at the white and black on the checkerboard. It's the same thing.
Well, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe that he was ordered by, I want to say God, but it could have been somebody else to order that temple for God. But the one thing we do know about Solomon is that he took 700 wives, and he took 700 wives from the neighbors, these neighboring tribes who were all pagans, right? And what God got mad about was that he started bringing in the practices of these wives, and he became an idolater, right? So there's no doubt that in the process of making this thing and afterwards that he was messing around with dark magic. And then you also have that apocrypha text, and I don't know how legitimate it is, about King Solomon. And they said that he used a magic sigil to control demons to build part of the temple. Now, I don't know if that's
from the Kabbalah teachings, which is from the Kabbalah, and a lot of Christians like to point to that. But this is in the Messianic Bible, or the Masonic Bible, or whatever you would call it, which is the Jewish Bible, right? So that is where they have Solomon's story, and they do keep that in there. So my point is, like, who originally told the story? Also, how do we know what God it is? That's been turned into just a blanket statement for Lord, and Lord means Baal. And so then you get into Baal worship there. So it's a very odd thing when you start to look at like the Bible in its current iteration today because of the translations, right? That's the whole idea of the sons of God. Well, if you read the Bible in like the regular English Standard Version, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say the sons of God came down and mated with man or man's daughters, right? So there's discrepancies to be made. And that's why I kind of lean on what Bill Cooper says, which is like, I just look at what Jesus Christ says, because everything else has been kind of muddied and messed with since the times of Babylon. You know what I mean? But there's an aspect to that where I'm like, I kind of agree with that, only because of the who the fuck am I to know all the historical changing and translations of the Bible, right? I know this guy died and lived for me, and his words have been said in multiple books, so you can cross-reference them. I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, but you also got to understand, if you believe in the New Testament, you got to believe in the Old Testament, because Jesus was
I believe in it. I believe in it. I just think that they fucked with it.
Was a fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy, right? If you read Isaiah 53 and various other ones pointing to the Messiah,
right.
the majority, and people don't realize like this, if like 75 or 80% of everything that Jesus taught was from the Old Testament. Now, he gave the correct explanation of it, of where the Israelites went wrong. But to me, there's no, and I think one thing they're going to try to do in the end times, if we're leading up to this, whether it's real or manufactured, they're going to try to divide the New Testament from the Old Testament, and they're going to usher in this Gnosticism, and they're going to point to the God of the Old Testament is really the demiurge, which they would consider a Satan type figure.
Yes,
as a way
I can see that totally.
I believe that's what will happen.
I agree,
because that's
with
Christian Gnosticism right
but
there.
I
right?
also think, though, Ben, we know that people like to put truth within the lies. So how much of that is true, though? How much of it is true is my only question. How much of the Old Testament has been fucked with is all I'm saying. Yes, there's prophesies of Jesus is coming, right? That's the whole point of the Old Testament, is to show that it's been known and it's been written that this will happen. However, there is some truth to the aspect of there has been muddying of the waters of God, Lord, and all those things, right? So,
oh, I'm not one of the, I'm not one of those guys that think the current version of the Bible that we have is perfect
That's
by
my
any
point.
means.
Yes,
Yeah, I don't.
saying.
There's some people like King James only. It's perfect word of God, and then you read into it, and it's like, no, it's not. They make up words that shouldn't be there. You know, translations might be different, and this is one thing people should actually do, and go back to the Greek, go back to the Hebrew, see what those words mean, and then compare that to the English translations that we have. And you can kind of see there is some artistic liberty when creating these translations.
Yeah, like a concordance, right? I have a concordance.
Yeah.
I look at the concordance all the time, and that proves that the sons of God were in the Bible, but it has been written different in different Bibles. So if you have a concordance, you can kind of get to some of these answers a little easier, which is why I understand that there are discrepancies that I have found that make me wonder, what have I not found? That maybe lead to some beliefs being held, right? So, and other people too, for that matter, you know.
And also, we got to take in consideration, you know, who was in charge of putting together the official canon.
That's my point.
The Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And before that, he was worshiping the god of Apollo. He thought he was a direct descendant of Apollo. So am I to believe, especially when you see how the religion changed after they legalized it in Rome, when they started bringing in what I would call idolatry, the venerating of the saints? They say they're not worshiping them, but go look at a shrine to Mary and tell me that's not worship. The changing of the Sabbath, all that type of stuff. So no, I don't necessarily trust anything that comes out of Rome.
I think it was a political move that stole all the real spiritualism out of it and instituted pagan spiritualism into it. And so, you know, there's a weird thing where you can't get to the true quote unquote Christian mystic religion that is within it, because it's been muddied with pagan, religion all over it. So it's hard to actually get to it without actually falling into the Gnostic Luciferian doctrine. And that's been done on purpose, because I do think there's an aspect to some sort of like mystical traditions, maybe that Jesus kind of like tried to show and practice or whatever, that you just can't even get to and understand, because it's not anywhere there besides what leads you into Luciferianism. You know what I mean? I think there's an aspect to that, but what do I know?
Well, that's why, like, I mean, I love the Bible. I run a Bible study, but at the end of the day, I just like to keep it simple, right? What they go, one of my favorite passages, really popular passage, they go, rabbi, or teacher, what are the most important commandments, right? And he says, love the Lord God with all your heart and love your neighbor like you love yourself. While prophets and commandments hang on these two truths, essentially, right? So at the end of the day, if you love God, right, and you repent of your ways and actually try to live a spirit-filled life, and you love your neighbor like you love yourself, I think everything will work out for you in the end.
Yep. And look at what they've driven us towards. We're scared of our neighbors. We don't love each other, and we hate God. So there we are. Here we are. So the time has come to reveal the truth, to expose the spiritual essence of what bootlicking ordinary people call political extremism. We have confused them with enough enough by changing the labels of our political sympathies, the color of our heroes, and by passing from fire to cold, from rightism to leftism and back again. All of this has been but an intellectual artillery barrage, a kind of ideological warm-up, huh? It's almost like he's saying that this has been a false dialectic that's been pushed onto people so that way it could lead into this new, what he's about to lay out. Doesn't it seem that way?
Oh, absolutely.
We have frightened and tempted the extreme right and left, and now both and others have lost their way, strayed from the beaten tracks. This is amazing. Aha, so we've gotten to the truth. That is exactly what he's saying. This is amazing. As the great Evgeny Golovin liked to repeat, he goes against the day, should not fear the night. There's nothing more pleasant than when the ground is slipping out from under your feet. This is where the first experience of flight, it kills vermin, it tempers angels. So it's really this idea of like accelerationism that's being laid out here.
Do you notice what he called us normal people? This is how they really do it. He called us bootlickers.
Yeah, bootlickers. The lower, the underlings.
The bootlickers.
Who are we really? Whose menacing face is at all the more clearly peering out from the paradoxical radical political movement with the terrifying name National Bolshevism, which is, by the way, something he started. Today, we can respond without any ambiguity and vagueness, but this necessitates a brief excursion into the history of the spirit. Mankind has always had two types of spirituality, two paths, the right hand and left hand. The first is characterized by a positive attitude towards the surrounding world, harmony, balance, and bliss. All evils but a particular instance, a local deviation from the norm. And so he gets into the right-hand path is also called the Milky Way. It does not subject man to the particular suffering. It protects from radical experiences. This is a false path, he says. It leads to slumber. It leads to nowhere. The second path is the left-hand path. Sees everything in the reverse. There is no milky bliss, but black suffering. No silent calm, but festering. Fiery drama of split being. This is the path of wine. It is destructive, terrifying. Wrath and rage reign in it. And in this path, all reality is perceived as hell and as a submersion into the heart of some kind of unthinkable catastrophe originating from the very heights of the cosmos. Wow, dude, this guy's insane. He sounds like Aleister Crowley.
Oh, yeah. And this is what, once again, he is an occultist. He is arguing for dark magic. So if our thoughts are aligning with what he says, it's time to take a step back and go, wait a minute. Am I falling for this trap? Am I falling for an agenda? Why are my beliefs aligning with this occultist? And you could say the same thing for the Zionist regime, right?
That's right.
Which is why I just say reject it all and follow Jesus.
Yeah. Only this path is correct. He who takes the path will gain fame and immortality. He who survives it will prevail and receive an award that is greater than being. He who goes down the left-hand path knows that it will end. The dungeon of matter will collapse and be transformed into a heavenly city. A chain of initiates passionately prepares into. Now, this is like when they talk about, like, I don't fear death. I know that I'm going to live forever. And, what matters is everlasting life. None of this stuff. In a way, kind of leads into this where it's like, almost nihilistic in a spiritual sense. It sounds like Alice Bailey, where she goes, hey, I know a lot of people are going to die when we usher in this new age, but it's okay because they're going to live forever. Their soul lives on. It's all good, guys. If anything, they're going to ascend in their death, by the way. So really, they're going to be better off when we.
Well, I would say they would descend down to hell.
Right. And so it's interesting that, it seems to be mirroring this ideology everywhere you look when you look deeper at it. Right.
Yeah. What I just love how he started it. You guys are all a bunch of bootlickers.
Oh, yeah.
Screw
I
you
love
guys.
it. Well, here he lays it out. The left-hand path is called gnosis, knowledge. So this is why, Michael Aquino worships Set, because Set would be the left-hand path, right? Osirian mysteries would be the right-hand path, both of them being a dialectical engine leading you towards Luciferianism. However, they like to act like one's better than the other,
But I think they play off of each other, don't you think?
Yes.
So like this White Lodge or this Dark Lodge, once again, they're different paths, but it leads to the same destination.
Right. No, absolutely. Gnosticism, the big G in Freemasonry. What do you think it means? Doesn't mean God. It means gnosis.
Oh, it does? No. Yeah.
Yes, dude. That's the G, man. And a lot of people don't know that, but gnosis is ultimately what they worship because it is self-enlightenment, self-fulfillment. It is the Luciferian principles. That's what it is. And so that's ultimately what they worship, why they worship the sun, because it being the illuminating light of the world that gives life to all, and they achieve their gnosis through it.
Yeah. And I guess as someone who follows Jesus, I think the reason why they push gnosis so much is because guess what? Gnosis doesn't lead to salvation, in my opinion, right? So
No.
if you're focused on all the knowledge which they're pushing, then hey, good for their side, right?
That's
So
right.
I think ultimately, people talk about this is, these are spiritual battles that we're facing, or they're trying to jack our loose or something like that. But I remind people that these spiritual battles are just manifestations of a greater war that's going on.
Mhm.
And I think that is a battle between God Most High, Jesus, the loyal angels, the fallen, Satan and the fallen angels, and they're battling all over our salvation. And the question is, do you choose knowledge, their religion, gnosis, or do you choose to humble yourself and recognize, in my opinion, at least that Jesus Christ died for our sins and we were given that gift of eternal life?
Well, that's right. And they sell you.
They oppose each other, in my opinion. Gnosis and
Yes.
salvation oppose each other. And in this greater war, the other side wants less people to achieve salvation, so they push what won't guarantee that.
I could totally see that, dude. No, that's right. And yeah, I think that whenever you look deeper into like Freemasonry, I'm doing the Mystery Babylon series. I started that revisit of Bill Cooper's legendary series. And I'm just gaining, I've watched this and read this series maybe 3 or 4 or 5, 6 times already. And this time is really crazy different a little bit because I feel like I've gained so much contextual understanding and knowledge of like this thing that we study. And going back through his like back to the basics rendering of what it is, it's like, wow, it really all opens up to you in a crazy way, And I would even recommend that you check out at least this one episode, the first intro one. I'll send it to you.
That you did?
I will send it to you because what he lays it out, and it's so crazy because by the end here, let me show you what he says at the end here, because it's probably the craziest thing I've ever read. And as you get through the series, it'll make more sense, but it's insane. And this is kind of where I'm leading some of my thought process from a little bit, because I'm like, dude, there's something to that. Let me pull this up real quick. It's a little bit of a topic changer, but not really.
Real quick.
Yeah.
They're talking about Adam and Eve. And I just want to say this. It's, people like to blame a lot of people for things. Oh, it's the Jews. Oh, it's the Jesuits. Oh, it's the, Chabad or whatever, And my whole thing is, I think we don't blame Adam and Eve enough, because if they never ate that damn apple, we would not be in this position today.
Right. No, absolutely.
That's where I put all my blame. Yeah.
Let me see if I can find where this is. Where is it at? Oh, no. I thought it was this one. It should be this one. Ah, here it is. Here it is. With the explorations in Sudan, regions of Africa, of the ruins of the ancient capital of Ethiopia, which is Kush. I was making sure I was sharing this. Which is Kush of the Old Testament, bringing to light an ancient temple of Ammon containing a huge Masonic altar, and with archaeologists getting ready to renew their work in Palestine and Euphrates Valley, antiquarians expect further additions to the vast amounts of evidence of the worldwide spread of primitive Freemasonry, which concealed in its rites, symbols, and ceremonies for teaching the belief of the grand architect and grand geometrician of the universe, a one and supreme God who creates nothing. As said before, not the God of the Bible. This God is a pantheistic God. And we can expect the explorations, though, eventually to bring new material that links the mound builders of the Mississippi Valley, the Mayas of the Yucatan, and the ancient Egypts into one distinctly primitive brotherhood. We talk about this all the time, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
This is Atlantis, right?
Yeah.
That they're trying to push. And if you follow the thread, you will find it leads up to the present day. They believe Freemasonry is the parent of all religions. The original world. Go ahead.
So, no, sorry. Well, real quick, do you know who Cush is, right? So if you read the Old Testament, you have all these different descendants of Noah.
Son of Cain, isn't he?
Yeah, but one line, which is the Davidic line, leads to Jesus. And in the Old Testament, all these different people of Cush, this and that, they spread all over the Middle Eastern area. And that's when these mystery religions, this fallen angel worship kind of entered
That's
within
right.
all these different cults. It all goes back to that and these specific
Yes.
bloodlines.
Well, you're going to see. Yep. I'm going to pull that up in a second because he talks about that. That's so amazing. You just brought that up. Hold on to that. Davidic bloodline. Davidic bloodline, everybody. Hold on to that.
That's the Jesus. Yeah.
Yes. Hold on to that because that's exactly what he talks about in here. And it's so important that we talk about that. The original worldwide cosmic gnosis diffuses in ancient times into the uttermost ends of the earth, scattered as it were, the Pompeii of prehistoric science. So in other words, this is Atlantis, but the mystery religion spread everywhere. This gnosis, right? Okay. It is prehistoric science, but not based in reality. However, Bill Cooper says that. All the Masonic rituals were supremely scientific in an ancient way, survival through long ages. Okay, let me get past this. I'm trying to find, he talks about, damn it. Oh, here it is. This is it. Okay. So he was talking about, sorry guys, he was talking about the Druids worship the deity, the bull, right? Baal, Bacchus, same thing. As did the early Hebrew and Egyptians under the form of an erect monolith, a phallus, the Hermetic pillar of Gilgal, like Gilgamesh, in which I don't know actually Gilgal, but they were all found in Palestine today. That's the important part I'm trying to get to here. And the Sarajuin, the female consort of who responds in every way to the Egyptian Isis, had a solar god called Isus or Jesus. And so what he's saying is that they've mixed in this pagan, like Jesus's name comes from like Isus, from this Egyptian consort of Isis. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to explain here is that there's been a lot of that type of fuckery that's gone on in the Bible too, where I'm like, you know what I mean? That's where I get kind of weird with it. That's what I was trying to explain earlier because of this kind of context I'm getting here where it's like, you can see it. It is everywhere.
Well,
it permeates.
Well, I mean, in the Old Testament, it talks about the infiltration of these pagan beliefs within the body of Israel. I mean, the entire kind of Old Testament, it's like the same story reoccurring. It's they're faithful to God Most High, then they kind of rebel and they take on the gods of their neighbors and stuff like that. Then they go back and they're faithful to God Most High, and then they go and take on the gods of their neighbors. So you could see how these pagan belief systems could definitely have infiltrated the Israelites for sure.
Right. So let me find the Davidic bloodline aspect to this you just brought up. You got anything else right now? Because I'm trying to find it. I up here.
Just that the Davidic bloodline is the bloodline that led to Jesus, and all the other, because if you read the Table of Nations, I think there's something like 70 of them or something like that after Deuteronomy 32. And I think that all the rulers of these nations are all from the Noah bloodline that do not lead to Jesus.
That's right. Yep. And he kind of lays that out here. And that's the point of them going to Palestine and trying to unearth everything to try to prove their whatever. That's kind of what he was trying to make a case for. He says that all initiates, when they begin their mystical journey, only begins when they're lifted by the grip of the lion's paw. The lion's paw, of course, representing the royal family of the tribe of Judah, which comes from the house of David, meant to rule the New World Order from Israel, essentially. To make a modern connection here, of course, we had Netanyahu did, Rising Lion, right? Operation Rising Lion, whenever he went to Iran recently. And, Bill Cooper talks about how Israel was created to bring about Armageddon that ushers in this New World Order. And he just said here, it gets ran by this Davidic bloodline tribe of Judah, which is the lion, right?
Well, I would say that's a counterfeit Davidic bloodline, right? So it's they're wolves in sheep's clothing, and they say the things that would not present them as these wolves. It's like the Rothschilds, right?
They changed their name. It's British Israelism,
right?
Like you just said, that's what he kind of says is the enemy. That was the point of all that. Is he's saying British Israelism. That's what all this is about, right? That's the issue here, which again is the royal Babylonian banker families, the Rothschilds, etc. So exactly,
and the black nobility and all that kind of stuff, and they hide behind all these institutions, and in reality, they're all Satan worshipers.
Yeah, that's right, dude.
Seriously,
no, and because it goes all the way back to that first religion that Freemasons say that they, this cosmic religion that he kind of lays out, Mystery Babylon. And it's the only religion besides like Christianity. It is the only one. Otherwise, there's not like a bunch of religions that we think are like all these different things, like Hinduism, paganism, and all these different things. They're all the same, with different aspects to them and some slightly different teachings, but ultimately the same thing, self-deification.
Well, and it's all the same gods, just given a different name. It's just a different flavor. It's the reason why all the nations, except for one back in the day, they all worship the pantheon of gods. And I believe they were the same gods. They just worship them differently. It's like if you read the book of Revelations, and somewhere halfway through the last 7 years, I believe, right, around halfway, these fallen angels are given the keys to the abyss, right? And they're released back onto the earth to torment humanity for 5 months. And the leader, according to the Bible, it says Abaddon the destroyer in Hebrew, or Apollyon the destroyer in Greek.
Or Azazel.
Or
it's
Azazel.
all the same thing, dude. It's
or
back
Shiva, or
Yep.
Shiva the destroyer in Hinduism. They're all these destroyer archetypes, right?
Oh, you did it now.
So I think it's the same fallen gods that they worshipped. It's just a different name pertaining to a different culture.
It's the horned god. And the horned god, like Cernunnos.
CERN.
And guess what's outside of CERN? The Shiva statue.
Yeah.
Cernunnos is a deity, a Celtic god whose name is clearly attested once. It talks about Cernunnos is this ram-horned serpent, symbolism of fertility, wild beasts. I mean, it's same symbolism. So again, this one world religion is rearing its head over and over. And the more I look into this Mystery Babylon, the more I can see it everywhere. Cernunnos, Shiva, it's all the same creator, destroyer, deity that comes down to what we're speaking of. It's one thing. It's one thing.
Yeah, and you can see how that can make an extreme comeback if they manufacture this holy war, Jews and Christians versus Muslims.
Right.
And they blame it on these people. And then you could definitely see a comeback of these gods, especially if they somehow come back as ascended masters or something like that.
Well, that's right. And that's kind of the whole point of this, is to, as they're doing this, also bring in this new world religion. Isn't it interesting that they chose 4 alien species when they came out and talked about it on Fox News?
What?
4, like the 4 main.
Yeah. The Nordics, the reptilians, the insects or whatever.
Yeah. And what are the 4 major, houses or whatever? Like, you got the lion, the eagle, the man, and the bull, right? That's the 4. What am I thinking of here? The 4, like it's outside it's the 4 like main
cherubim faces,
kind of, but it's not really called that. What is it? What am I thinking of here, guys? Somebody in the chat knows. But it's the classic picture where it is the cherubim.
Yeah.
But it's like it represents the 4 major something that
it could be the 4 major. It could be the 4 empires that are going to rule over the earth. And that's in Daniel, I believe. That's also in Daniel multiple ways, when he has visions, and also with Nebuchadnezzar and that statue that talks about the 4 empires. That could be
the 4 gospels. It's the 4 gospels. Yeah. So the 4 gospels fall into this as well. And this is another way that they've kind of mixed in paganism into it, is what Bill Cooper was kind of arguing with the numerology of 4, not the gospels themselves, but the numerology of it. And just like the 7 everywhere and the 12 everywhere, and in my Father's house, which means heavenly abode. If you go look at the original etymology of house, there are a lot of mansions. And if you go look up the etymology of mansions, it means house. So in my Father's heavenly abode, there are a lot of houses, referring to the zodiacal houses. And what the fuck is that, dude? Because that's in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So like when you know that, that's why I question things. Because like, what do you do with that? Because that's clearly pagan. You know what I'm saying? And so there's an aspect to that where like, you got to beware and use your discernment. That's what I'm trying to point out here. And you have to understand their ways of numerology, etc., because it's one system that they have to work in.
Yeah. And one thing I also find interesting, especially now, and let's just throw in science and this alien thing, the way they use secular ideas to discuss, or I think prove, biblical truths. And I'll give you 2 examples of that. Talking about the 4 types of aliens. Well, one of the types of aliens is a reptilian.
Yes.
What do you know? One of the B'nai Elohim that came down here, one type is called the seraphim, which literally translates to either fiery dragon or serpent. So it's a secular way of describing these serpent-like angels. And then I also like to point out this idea that's gained a lot of steam, especially with modern science. And I say modern over the past 10 years. It's tied to quantum physics, stuff like that, when it comes to this idea of a simulation theory, right? So now, if it's a simulation like these theoretical science type like to point to, what does that mean? That means the simulation had to have a creator. What does Genesis tell us about the universe? Is that there's a creator. So right now we're seeing secular explanations of things you find in the ancient past, and in this case, the Bible.
Well, and two things here. Iron Lunatic, I'll get to the 7 in a second, because 7 is another one too. It's about the numerology of it. There's more than one aspect to it. So like when you look at now the Hebrew 4-letter word name for Jehovah.
Yahweh.
That's right. JHVH. And so what he was kind of expressing is that's the God of nature, right? And so when they represent with 4 like that, it kind of, and also he was talking about how like when you look geometria, we don't really do geometria, but if you were to, you would notice that a lot of these gods equate to the geometria of Jehovah, which is like something that they do with these names like Bacchus and, you know, Baal and all these things, right? And so that's something important too, is the numerology that they work in and how they've infiltrated the Bible with it in ways that you can't really know, like infiltrated the teachings in this way. Not to say that, you know, it's not real, but this is the problem with having like the pagan, you know, Constantine, who did a political movement by turning Christianity into, you know, the religion of the Roman Empire at the time, but it was infiltrated by pagans.
Yeah, and I'm of the belief though, because you do see when people talk about this stuff from certain lenses and perspectives, you see these overlaps, right?
That's right.
So the question is was it infiltrated in the Bible, or did all these pagan religions, they just try to counterfeit the real God? They try to counterfeit the real truth. And remember, there was, you know, Yahweh was present on this earth before the law of Moses, right? Adam and Eve were there. There was knowledge of these people, of God. So I'm of the belief personally that these similarities amongst the pagan belief system and what's within the Bible is these fallen angels trying to counterfeit the truth and incorporate it into theirs. I mean, that's my own belief. But once again, you know, with what was going on back in the day, it could have infiltrated some parts of the Bible. I'm not going to say it couldn't, but
yeah. Well, I think numerologically, if we're going off of that, and we know Freemasons work in this way through the Kabbalah, that's where I'm coming from. I'm not saying anything about the teachings themselves or what it means or any of that. I'm more speaking to the, see, like right here, 4 seasons. Why do we have 4 seasons? For the 4 gospels, 4 alien species. And it talks about the Last Supper. There's 12 houses, 4 groups of 3 in the Last Supper, right? So 4 groups of 3 is how they separated that. And so you have the 7 for the stars of the Pleiades. The 7 stars of the Pleiades are the 7 seals opened by the lion tribe of Judah, hence showing the emphasis of the tribe of Judah leading us into the New World Order as far as Revelation goes, because that is what opens up the tribulations and everything, right? And the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, etc. So it's interesting to me that the 7 seals might be related to the 7 Pleiadian star sisters that we see in the New Age movement rearing its head with the alien stuff. And then again, with the 4 species of aliens. So I'm only speaking to the numerological kind of parallels that we see here as we look at these narratives being built.
To tie into that,
the one world religion thing is what I was going to say. It gets to that. That's what it leads to, is this one world emergence of religions, because you already have the numerology inside of the Bible. It's already been infiltrated into there.
There's definitely numerology within the Bible. And just for 7, you know, Stephen brings this up all the time, the 7 mountain mandate, right? Within the evangelical movement, which is kind of controlling Trump right now.
That's exactly
semi-controlling Trump right now. There's different factions to all of it.
In the age, you know, we're heading into a new age. You know, it talks about ages or eons in the Bible, and that's kind of what we're working on when we listen to people like Alice Bailey talk about this new age coming. You know, it's a new eon. It's the end of when they say it's like the end of the world in the apocalypse or Armageddon, they're speaking of end of this world, this eon, and the beginning of a new one. And, you know, that gets back into this theosophy aspect of things. Interesting, dude. It's all coming. That's for sure.
It's about to get absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Because I think at this point, when you, like I said, when you know the end game, and you see how far along in the agenda they are, I think it's too late to pull back. Like I think they're going for it, and they're going to run it until the wheels fall off. And we'll see if it happens. And I'm also of the belief too, you know, you might call me black pilled for this, but you know, I took it with the glass of the Holy Spirit, so I have complete faith in, you know, God and Jesus. But I think if humans ever become too much of a problem, right, for their agenda, then that's when they'll really just kill us, right? I think they all built out these underground bunkers. I think I read an article somewhere that in Switzerland, they have enough underground bunkers for the entire population. We know the role that the Swiss play within the global banking system.
That's right.
You know, it's like they're getting ready for this. They've been getting ready for this for a long time. And I think if we ever really pose any threat to it, they would just demolish it all and start over. And it would look artificial, but hey, they're not going to give up their power.
Yep. And as we talk about this, right, you've got, you know, Alex Jones posting the new energy world order started. Iranian missiles invade U.S. defenses. I support a global nuclear war.
He said that?
Yeah, here it is. Exclusive. Why I now support a global nuclear war. As we're talking about this, I had to play this.
So yesterday on my regular weekday broadcast from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., in the middle of the show, I came out and said that I now support total nuclear war, a complete worldwide thermonuclear Armageddon that will kill all life on the surface of the planet, and that will just leave a few survivors in underground bunkers so that the elite that know best can reemerge from those and build.
Oh, is he being sarcastic?
He's being sarcastic.
That's hilarious, though.
I'm not gonna lie, he can be funny sometimes.
He is funny, man. He is, dude. I don't hate him. I don't hate anybody.
We shouldn't hate any of these people, right?
Yeah, I don't hate. I have no hate in my heart. I just enjoy ripping on their fucking narratives, dude, because it's just like I see where you're going with this. And you know, when you study narrative building and the mind wars, right? The whole thing that I did a whole thing on with Michael Aquino. It's like, dude, I've been studying this. Like this, it's hard for me to ignore when I see the building of narratives and I, you know, follow the logic down to its, you know, logical conclusion. And yeah, it's not good. So
and I think you say something very important, right? I don't hate anybody. That's what you said. And that's key. We should not hate anybody. And I think, you know, the true test for all of us, right, in God's eyes, you know, I had a friend reach out to me and go, you know, it's easy to love your family. It's easy to love a cousin and pray for them. But the real test for all of us is if we can pray for our enemies, right? Because at the end of the day, for me personally, I don't want to see anybody have to serve eternity in hell. And I think everybody, there's only one unforgivable sin, and that's blasphemies against the Holy Spirit. Now, what that is, that's up to debate. But the point of the matter is like everybody else, everybody has a redeemable arc. No matter who they are, what ethnicity they are, what they've done in the past. I mean, just think about Saul to Paul. You know, Saul was going around going after the early Jews and Christians that were following Jesus, turning them over to the Roman authorities, where they were persecuted and dead. But then guess what happened? He had his road to Damascus moment. He had that coming to Jesus moment. He then understood that Jesus was Messiah. But guess what? God then was able to use him as an instrument of righteousness, right? So I think we should all be used as an instrument of righteousness to promote the truth without having hatred in our hearts. Because I think the point of all of this is, and why do we speak the truth? To get other people to believe us, right? So if you're operating with hatred in your heart towards anybody, then it's not going to work.
That's right, dude. And you know, I have a weird take on like pitying people. I don't pity people. I don't feel bad for people. And by that I mean I have empathy for people. But if I pity you or if I feel bad for you on a level of like, oh, poor fucker, then I'm now placing myself in a superior role over you. And I just feel like, look, we're all humans, dude. I could end up in the same position as that person I'm pitying one day, and then the next day I'm in the same position. So I feel like humility comes from that too, where you're not, you know, hateful. You know, you don't pity people. You don't put yourself in a supremacist place. whether it be hating others because you feel yourself morally superior, or you feel yourself, financially superior, or whatever it might be. I just don't give into those in their various forms, whether it be like pity or hate or whatever, envy, things like that. And I feel like that all goes into the same thing. I just have, everybody's human. I love everybody. That's it. I got
Yeah.
whatever.
Hey, and I think we're also, at least for me, right, especially as someone who was an atheist and was not living right, and I was a slave to sin, um, it's hard for me to judge somebody else who's doing that, knowing that I once did it before I saw the light.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's where the humility comes in, is that I think that's ultimately what should unite us in a humble fashion, is recognizing that we're all sinners to some extent. Right. And I think in God's eyes, this is what he says. I know, granted, there's various sins that are dealt with differently, but in God's eyes, he says, you break one law, you break them all. Right. So it's hard to understand that, but we all fall short, right? And I think that we have to apply that same grace to people who are deceived right now as God showed us.
That's right.
Through all this stuff, right? I think we have to operate out of that agape love that
You got to
God
reach
shows
out.
us.
You got to reach out, the same way you'd reach out at somebody like a homeless guy on the street that's like fucking struggling, be like, hey man, you need a drink, you need water, you need a little dollar or two, don't go buying crack with it. But hey, if you got to, do your thing. If that's what you got to do, man, I ain't going to hate you for it. But it's like reaching out to these people or extending a hand, kind of obliterating their whole thing, their system and their whole organization is obviously another aspect to the goal, like we're doing with Alex Jones and these things. But also, like, if I would still reach my hand out and try to have some empathy and logic with the person. You know what I mean? So there's a duality to it that you can still have and maintain.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the question is this: it's why are we trying to blow up the narrative, right? And for me, at least personally, it's not because I expect that I'm going to see any real change in the system of control. It might turn a little different so we don't recognize it, but it's still the same system. I think we should blow up the narrative to point people to the truth, right? And that's that God loved us. And in my opinion, that Jesus died for our sins. And that's how you get salvation. So point out the fallacies of the world without hating these people and ultimately lead to people to the truth.
That's right. I agree. Man, dude, yeah, we're going to get out of here. I'm debating if I want to answer this crazy fucking question that somebody just asked. Do y'all think if God was black, heaven would be a ghetto? No, I think ghettos have been perpetuated by, a certain class of people, and that the current iteration of black Americans we see today have been manufactured on a major scale into what they are today. Their culture has been manufactured. Their personalities, to a large extent, have been manufactured. A lot of their histories have been manufactured, and they were dragged here. You have like a generational iniquity of being dragged here and enslaved, and then put into impoverished towns, and a lot of like crazy. Like, do they have a chance? Not really. But let's look at black people elsewhere, right? Like, maybe not. I guess you can't look at Africa because all the resources are there. So they're all getting fucked up over there. So it's like, I don't think it's like black people that cause it. I think it's the people that control everything that fuck all that up. People are people, humans are humans, and everybody has the equal aspects of virtue. And I believe that. And I think it could be fucked up through environment and things like that over time.
Yeah, and I would like to clarify something I said real quick, just based on the chat. I said that the one unforgivable sin, according to the Bible, is blasphemies against the Holy Spirit. Now, I think that is open up for interpretation. I don't know exactly what that means. Does that mean if I think that you said some bad things about Jesus when you're an atheist, that you're automatically kept out of heaven? Absolutely not, right? I personally think blasphemies of the Holy Spirit is messing with God's creation, and you're God's creation, and has something to do with DNA altering to the point where you're no longer human. But I don't think because you said something bad about God when you were an atheist or something like that, that you're kicked out of heaven. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Well, hey, if you hate God, just know that he still loves you.
And remember, we were all enemies of God at some point, right? We are.
I mean, dude, it's time and time again. The whole Bible is about people hating him and turning on him, and him still loving them. So, yeah, try to exemplify some of that aspect, of your own personality. But Yeah, Ben, let them know where they can find you, dude. Another banger
Yes.
episode. I love having
I
talks
always
with you.
love
We could
to-
go
yeah.
all night, dude.
You can find me at End of the World News on Instagram, Spotify, or iTunes. I make 3-minute videos on Instagram. I've been doing a little less lately just because it takes a lot of time and I work a lot. Or you can find me at YouTube, and that's what I have on my marker right here. And it's End of the World's, add an S to World News, all one word. And I do a weekly or sometimes twice a week podcast where we discuss. Well, it's two separate ones. So on Monday, I do basically domestic and geopolitics through a biblical worldview. And on Fridays, if I don't have a guest, I like to get into the influencer industrial complex. I know I like to talk about it a lot, but ultimately, I think that's the tip of the spear of the magic trick that we're all under. It's that word spells, kind of like what we talked today. So yeah, that's where you can find me. Thanks for everybody in the chat that tuned in and gave us all your examples and stuff like that. It makes it a lot more fun. And thank you for having me on here. It's always a pleasure to talk.
Oh, anytime, dude. Anytime. Yeah, dude. Definitely the tip of the iceberg. That's why we had to spend some time talking about it. Cause that's where, nowadays that, the media is done. Everybody gets their information, not from the news, but from online. And it's from majorly these talking heads. So you got to analyze them for what they're putting out there. What kind of people, what are people eating in their brain? What are they accepting in their minds? And we add that counterforce to it. Shout out Iron Lunatic, dude. Thank you. Good show. Right on, brother. Everybody got a large archive of early access episodes. We got a Mystery Babylon first episode of the series. Go check that out. I'm going to be doing part 2 on Sunday. So get yourself caught up for that part 2. I'll be live like 3 or 4 times this weekend. So be on the lookout. We'll be doing Weekend Warrior shit all weekend. Thank you guys. Thank you, Jeezy, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey.
Hopefully I see you guys all weekend, man. And we'll be back. Shout out Tara for another Jules. Them floating heart. I don't know what any of that is. I wonder if there's like emojis that are attached to these. I don't
What
know.
are jewels exactly?
I don't know. I've never seen them before.
I think they're like fractions of like, so it's either like $5 or $6 or $10
Right.
for the super chat. I think with jewels, it's like fractional money or something like that.
Okay. I saw that you could give gifts, and I don't know what that is, but it's all YouTube jewelry. Anyway, just kidding. All right, everybody. Yeah, check out our archive. We got plenty of bangers. I'll be here all weekend. Have a great weekend, everybody, and see you later. All right.
Man, are we